let's start with Michigan, Arizona. That's going to be an absolute battle. People are talking about it like it might be the Final Four game of the decade. Let's hope it lives up to that. 1.5 point. Both. I mean, you can't ask for much more when both these games are 1.5 point spread. So,
yeah,
give me a breakdown of the Michigan Arizona game. And I'm stoked. I'm going to the game, and even if Illinois loses, I'm going to stick around because that might be just an absolute banger of a game. So, what are you expecting from that?
for sure, stick around for this game. 1 and 2 in KenPom, two of the best teams in the country the entire year. So, of course, we want to see those Cinderellas make the Final Four. Last year and this year, no mid-majors or, high seeds really made the Final Four. But this is kind of what you're giving up. You're getting an amazing game at the Final Four, and, we'll both be in attendance. So it'll be amazing. It's just two juggernauts going at each other, two huge teams. I think they're 1 and 2 in defense, and it's just going to be a really physical and fast game. So if you like points and you want to see teams run up and down the floor, that's exactly the game for you. It'll be interesting to see if Arizona can handle how fast Michigan wants to play, and that's also considering that Arizona likes to play fast too. So obviously you're a little bit familiar with Michigan if you've watched the Illinois-Michigan game. They're an amazing team. LJ Cason's unfortunately not playing, but both teams are huge. Arizona has Krivas, Pete. They can really combat those bigs too. So it's pretty much a coin flip. And both games, I would say, as you can see by the 1.5 point spread, I do lean towards Arizona a little bit in this game. I'm hoping, their 3-point shooting, doesn't hurt them too much in this game. Not that they can't make it. They just don't shoot a lot of threes. So it could be a little difficult for them to score against Michigan. But in the end, I do think just with Pete, Jaden Bradley, Krivas, Tommy Lloyd as their coach. He's finally broke through into that Final Four. We'll see if he goes to North Carolina, but I think he's going to get this done here in Indianapolis. But like I said, it's so tough. It could be one of the best games in a very long time.
Yeah, I hope it's going to be. I mean, you got a ton of NBA dudes. Yaxel's been playing amazing, and like you said, maybe the winner of the Michigan-Arizona game gets the North Carolina job. So lots going to play out, and talk about a Final Four of storylines. I mean, Hurley beating Duke, knocking them out. They're going for 3 out of 4. Illinois hasn't been back since 2005, and even random people I bump into on the street up here in Michigan, like at work and things, like they remember D and Darren. Like that was just an iconic team. And Arizona hasn't been back since 2001. They've had so many good teams. Can Tommy Lloyd finally get them over the hump? And then Michigan hasn't won it since 1989. They've been so good. They've got, so many future pros on their team, and just Dusty's flipped that around so fast. So if you're breaking down the Final Four, who do you think is going to win it all, and why?
Yeah, well, I kind of said I think Illinois beats UConn, and I think Arizona beats Michigan. I know it's kind of a narrative that the Arizona-Michigan game is the national championship. I do think it's unfortunate they're on the same side of the bracket. I do think it's the two best teams. Duke kind of benefited playing in the ACC, I think, and Michigan lost against Purdue, or else maybe they would have been the number one. But, yeah, I'll say Arizona in that game. I do think Arizona's going to win it all. A West Coast team, our team, I guess, west of the Central Time Zone hasn't won since Arizona in 1997. It's got to end eventually. I guess you could say the same for the Big Ten being 2000. But I think Arizona, both their games, or at least one out of their 2 games, they lost without Pete. And he's just an amazing freshman lottery pick. And they just look so solid every single game. I think their floor is just a little bit higher than Michigan's. If you get Michigan on a really good night, I don't think anyone in the country can beat Michigan, but just Arizona's consistency I'll roll with, and I think Arizona ends up winning it all and cutting down the nets against our Illini, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think I agree with pretty much everything you just said. I personally think when Michigan's clicking on all cylinders, I think they have the highest ceiling, but I agree that their floor is a little bit lower. Just some of the games I've seen them struggle with this year, even like in the regular season against Penn State and stuff. Like Arizona didn't really have those games. But Arizona just beats the crap out of you, and they're just so physical, so deep. It's almost like people don't even talk about Jaden Bradley that much, and he's like a stud. And he was Pac-12, Big 12 Player of the Year, And it's a funny Final Four for Illinois storylines too, because obviously UConn, this is kind of a revenge game. We already played them earlier this year, the 30-0 run. Arizona might want revenge on us for way back in the day, and then
Yeah.
we played them a couple times in the early 2000s, and then Illinois Michigan fans just don't get along, and this is revenge for the Flying Illini. So again, you alluded to it, but give me sort of your score prediction for Saturday and how you think that one's going to play out with Illinois and UConn.
Yeah, it's going to be a close one. A lot of storylines, like you said, and especially in terms of other guys playing for other teams. Terrace Reed played for Michigan. Boswell played for Arizona. There's a lot of that. I'm sure there's some other examples too, especially in this portal era. But it's going to be a really slow game. Illinois UConn, another grinded out type of game, which I think benefits Illinois, which is kind of crazy. Just looking at Illinois teams in the past, especially like a Terrence Shannon, who's one of the fastest players in the world that I've seen play basketball in transition. And you look at Io, who's an amazing transition player, and shout out to him. He just got a triple-double in the NBA. But this game is going to be so slow. Both teams are just incredibly low in adjusted tempo. Since January 1st, they're both in the 300s. So you're looking at a pretty low-scoring game. Wouldn't be surprised if it's in the 60s, but I'll go 75 Illinois, UConn 74. Hopefully, I know a close game kind of scares me with Dan Hurley, and especially the magic that UConn has just all the time. I feel like they always win in these close games and always win in the Final Four. And all these stats that people throw out, it's always like, okay, except for UConn and then XYZ.
Yeah.
So that kind of scares me there. But I will go 75-74, the Illini taking a victory over UConn.
So you're going to take the over then, because we're sitting at 139.5. But yeah, that was a crazy stat I heard like before the tournament was getting started. I think like 14 of the last 17 title champs have been 1 seeds, and 2 of those were UConn, with Kevin Ollie and then Hurley's team a few years ago. So crazy. Yeah, there's so many stats that are just UConn is the major outlier. So you're picking Illinois to win, and then you again alluded to Arizona winning it all. How do you see that game playing out? And what are kind of Illinois' chances, you think, if they were able to face up with Arizona? I mean, we know how they face up against Michigan. I think this team is playing better right now than they were a month or so ago when you played Michigan, but
yeah,
people sort of know how that one played out, and you'd probably have a lot of the same challenges. So how does an Illinois-Arizona national championship look, and what's your expectation for that?
Yeah, I think in terms of Michigan, Illinois would play them better. I think they are playing well. Ultimately, I think Michigan would get the W. I think Arizona, Michigan will be a high-scoring game. So if you're going to the game and staying for both, you'll see a really slow tempo and then a really fast game in Arizona, Michigan. I think it'll be played in the 80s, and that's just college basketball at its finest. 60-point performances, and then you look up and it's 90-90 in an Arizona, Michigan type game. But that's the beauty of the sport. And I think in terms of Illinois, Arizona, they're going to try to speed us up a lot. It's going to be after a game where we control the tempo, play our game, and we're going to have to, stick with their bigs and play super physical. I just think, their bigs are amazing. And they have, Jaden Bradley too, which adds on to, how good they are. So, I ultimately think just a fast team like Arizona will give us issues, and their size will give us issues. And they've proved it all year long that they're, one of the best defenses in the entire country. They're really good at guarding the paint. So Illinois would have to make threes, similar to Michigan. They would have to make threes to win that game, which is, crazy to say that Illinois hasn't been making threes at a very high level, but it's not like they're going to be able to dominate the paint against Arizona or Michigan like they have in these other games throughout the tournament. And yeah, I just don't see it being enough. You talk about like, oh, they need to make threes, they need to do this, and then for Arizona, it's kind of just like, all right, they play how they should, and they'll beat Illinois. So ultimately, I lean towards Arizona.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to catch much flack for that. I think any Illinois fan that has paid attention to basketball and stuff, it's okay to be the second or third best team in the country, especially when you have 2 teams like Arizona and Michigan that I think would would win it all most years. And yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate that they're on the same side, but for UConn and Illinois, it's kind of nice that you might get a chance to play another game where you otherwise wouldn't.